Hi, spooky bitches. Hello, my practitioners of bitchcraft and bitchery. Hello, people who don't identify as that, and I don't know how to refer to you, but I see you, and thank you for showing up. Welcome to Esoterica and Nonsense, a podcast where we discuss myths, legends, folktales, fairy tales, supernatural phenomenon, and religions from around the world. I am your host, Banana Hell. I am a shape-shifting intergalactic pug dog of gargantuan proportion, lover of cheese, proponent of bitchery, and I'm here on a very creepy evening. The rain stopped. I was recording my previous episode and I almost jumped out of my skin because Loki, the dog, he's a black German shepherd. He's beautiful. He walked into the room so silently in my periphery. I thought he was a human being because he was so tall. And my episode that I'm about to do right now is about the black dog. So I think it was just in the back of my mind, and Loki really scared me. But right now, he's lying on the floral couch next to me, and he just looks like a sweet buddy, and he's taking a nap. So he's not scary at all. I just got scared because I'm staying in this creepy house that is full of beige carpeting, and it has a grandfather clock that keeps fucking chiming every 12 minutes for no reason at random inopportune time. I mean, it's not really inopportune. It's perfect because it's spooky season. It's Scorpio season, you bitch. And honestly, I actually love Scorpio season. I used to dislike it. Also, pardon me, I got myself a goblet of chocolate chips. I found chocolate chips in the cupboard, and they have this amazing goblet. It's like a little short goblet out of green glass, very 70s. And I filled the goblet with chocolate morsels. So pardon me. I'm also drinking a delicious cup of golden snail from Blue Willow Tea Spot located in Berkeley. Are you a lover of tea? Do you love fine things for very affordable prices? I highly recommend that you check out the website Blue Willow Tea Spot. You can Google Blue Willow Tea Spot. They ship worldwide. They are not paying me to say this. It's just like my favorite tea place in the world, and I'm drinking the golden snail. Highly recommend. See? It's chiming again. And you know what? Something's even creepier? Loki left the room a second before the clock chimed. And then it chimed. It's 7:51. This doesn't make any fucking sense, you guys. Whatever. So, we're going to talk about the black dog or the grim. Now, if you're a HP person, you know about the grim, or that it at least exists. J.K. Rowling, who is a very fascinating, troubled woman. She's been canceled for good reasons. I will say that I appreciate that her book had lore. Like she did some research on some lore. But like specifically only British lore. And I think my biggest issue with HP, I mean, this episode has nothing to do with HP, but here I go. This is my hot take. My biggest issue with Harry Potter is that she didn't really do any global world building. Like when I was younger, I was fascinated with this idea of the world of witchcraft and wizardry. But why is it that it was really just only the British experience of witchcraft and wizardry? Like I'm not really interested in Britain. Like I couldn't really care less. Like no offense to the Brits, like bless you, but you know what I mean? There's like so many other places that I'm interested in the world. And I really thought that she had a missed opportunity of them exploring and meeting other wizards, or like global politics in the wizarding world. Like even Ron's family went to Egypt, and that was like a wasted opportunity. Now, maybe it's all for the best because maybe she wouldn't have been respectful or like done any research on her own of other cultures. But I'm just saying, like, from a world building point of view, she didn't really build a world, did she? I mean, she just kind of like created like a story from the point of view of a white guy in Britain, which is like tired. I'm over it. Okay. Also, I didn't actually finish the books because I just got so fucking annoyed. Because I just can't I just got really annoyed. But my friend told me that in the seventh book, I think. That's like the only book I didn't read, so it has to have been the seventh book. My friend was telling me that they went to like some kind of like wizarding convention or some shit, and basically there was wizards doing spells without wands, and then that was it. That was never mentioned again, and that never became an ambition to anyone else. And it's like, you guys, I don't know, just something to think about. But that was a completely unrelated tangent that has nothing to do with this episode. We are going to talk about the black dog or the grim. And shout out to Loki. I don't know where you just went, boy, but this is all about you. So, surprise, surprise, the black dog is considered to be a demonic and or supernatural entity that is seen throughout Europe and parts of the Americas. It is most often described as an unnaturally large dog with glowing red or yellow eyes. So they're often described as fire eyes, which kind of reminds me of the boitata of the previous episode. In European culture, the black dog is often associated with the devil, or the hellhound of the devil, and it is considered to be an omen of death. They're also associated with electrical storms, crossroads, barrows, which are, quote, fairy hounds. So like the dogs of the fairies, which, come on, I want to be a barrow. Hello, I am a barrow. And the black dogs are also associated with places of execution and ancient pathways. So let's clear something up right away. So the origins of the black dogs are actually thought to be from Welsh folklore, Norse folklore, and Greek folklore. And unsurprisingly, the roots of where they come from is not demonic, and they were never considered to be demonic. I feel like a good rule of thumb in almost all ancient lore is that all animals are actually allies, and there's never evil animals. If there's an evil animal, it could be that individual, and it's usually just they don't care about humans. They're not actually evil. Animals are always allies. But of course, when Christianity was introduced into the world, and specifically Europe, it was often used divisively to demonize the indigenous culture of whatever country that was, and basically demonize their, quote, pagan beliefs, pagan just meaning pre-Christian, polytheistic, nature worshipping, whatever, to demonize them. And so anything that they once believed in now is an extension of the devil, because it's not about renouncing all of your powers to God / Jesus Christ, our Holy Lord and Savior. So, chocolate chips. So like I mentioned, they're associated with older stories. So before I jump into them, what I'm actually noticing, and I want to see what you guys think, but it seems that the black dog specifically, not dogs in general, but the black dog seems to be a guardian of the spirit world, and that's what I have deduced, but I want to see what you guys think. I'm going to cite off some sources, some reasoning, okay? So the first one, which seems to be a huge influence on the European tale of the black dog, is this is a Welsh word. So I'm not even going to pretend like I'm pronouncing this correctly at all. But it's the Swyn Anwen. And in Welsh, Anwen means hounds. So that's, the Welsh hounds. But essentially, these hounds were associated with a form of the wild hunt. So the wild hunt is a really fascinating motif from multiple cultures' folklore, specifically in Northern Europe, but it's not necessarily. So the wild hunt is a motif that involves epic chases led by mythological figureheads, often Odin, but not always. Different cultures have different figureheads, and depending on the story or the time period, it changes who's in charge or who's leading the hunt. But there are often multiple people involved in a hunt, and they're escorted by a group of supernatural hunters or ghosts in the pursuit of whatever their target is. So in a lot of these stories of these great hunts, so they happen a lot in Viking culture, in Welsh stories, even in Greek stories, often these great mythological and almost like spiritual supernatural hunts, the gods or figureheads are often accompanied by dogs, and they're always black dogs. So they're kind of like this spiritual emblem of master hunters. And in the Welsh tradition, the Swin Anwen is often associated either with the king of Anwen, who was sometimes considered to have supernatural powers, or these hounds were associated with the Gwyn ap Nudd, which essentially was considered to be the king of the other world and the fairy folk. So this is what I'm talking about. So the other world, from the Christian perspective, is considered to be the underworld, as in hell. But really, what the Welsh meant by the other world was the world of plenty, the world of magic, the world of fae, the world of fairies. And so this is a really common misconception that I think Christianity in general has tainted from a lot of folklore from around the world, is interpreting basically any other realm from this one to either be heaven or hell. And I think that's not true for a lot of cultures, because I think they had multiple different realms. So this was a common mistake with the cultures of Europe, who claimed that these hounds, these supernatural hounds, were guardians and hunters of the other world, not the underworld. So it is said that if you were to hear the Swin Anwen howl, that it was a premonition of your soon death. If their growl sounded far away, they were actually close. And if the growls were close, then they were actually far away. That sounds a lot like La Llorona. Am I right? That sounds a lot like it. So the hounds are sometimes accompanied by a fearsome hag called the Maltinos, or Matilda of the Night. Hello, is that me? I think so. She's also sometimes known as the Swin Mamau, which means the hounds of mothers. Love her. So it was believed that this old hag was actually once a gorgeous noblewoman, and she wanted to spend the entirety of her afterlife on the hunt with the hounds of the other world. So that's called bad bitchery, and I love her, and I want to be a hag in the afterlife that hangs out with dogs. Hello. So that's the Welsh telling of the black dog. So in Norse tradition, they had a story of the Garmr. And the Garmr was a Norse wolf and or dog associated with both hell and Ragnarok. So, back up. Hell is not what the Christians consider to be hell. Hell is spelled H-E-L, and hell is both a Norse goddess of the underworld, and the underworld is called hell. And fun fact, I know like Marvel has just really taken over the zeitgeist, but Ragnarok is actually really misinterpreted by a lot of, I guess, like contemporary thought, because I think people just try to simplify things and whatever. But what Ragnarok really is considered, quote, twilight of the gods. And it's actually a series of prophetic events It is the foretelling of the death of multiple gods, as well as natural disasters on planet Earth, including the submersion of the world in water and eventually the resurrection of the gods and 2 human survivors. So Ragnarok is not heaven. It's also not the capital city of gods, okay? Ragnarok is more of like a prophecy. So just letting you guys know. So these garmers, these black dogs of the Norse tradition, are associated with both the underworld hell and this prophecy, the twilight of the gods, this prophecy of death and disaster and eventually resurrection. So these hounds are actually described as, quote, the blood-stained guardians of hell. So I guess that could be considered scary. But I think if you're from a warrior culture, that may not be that scary because maybe they're guarding hell so that dead people aren't getting out, so you don't have like a zombie outbreak. I don't know. Just saying. So then the other major influence on the black dog is Kerberus. So why do I say Kerberus? Some people say Cerberus. I say Kerberus because historians have proven that in Latin, if a word starts with a C, it's a hard C. You don't have to believe me. You can look it up. I prefer how Kerberus sounds. Shout out to my freshman year Latin teacher. I hope you're doing well, Masha. So, Kerberus is considered the hound of Hades. It is a multi-headed dog of the underworld, and it stands at the gates of the underworld to prevent the dead from leaving. See? That doesn't make it evil, you guys. It's just protecting the veil between the realms. Kerberus is considered to be the offspring of Echidna. See? It just rang again. Kerberus is the offspring of Echidna and Typhon, and they are like the infamous parents of like all the monster children. So Kerberus is considered to be like a famous monster. He's like one of the more famous of their kids, but they had so many. And he's often described with 3 heads. And fun fact, not a lot of people know this, but Kerberus is also usually described with a serpent tail and sometimes other snakes protruding out of different parts of his body. But funnily enough, the oldest known description of Kerberus, he has 50 heads. And at one point in history, he was described as having 100 heads. And there are also some descriptions of him with 1 dog head and 1,000 snake heads, kind of like a Medusa situation. Medusa dog. Hey, that's a cute costume. Somebody dress your dog up as Medusa. But in most of the depictions, I mean, which is like understandable, a lot of the times when he was depicted by artists, either on vases or wherever, he was often depicted with 2 to 3 heads. I think mostly for artistic reasons. It makes sense. I mean, it sounds like a painter's nightmare to paint a dog with 50 heads. It just doesn't really feel anatomically possible, especially in a small canvas, maybe a wall-sized piece. But again, it would just get confusing anatomically. So I respect their artistic vision on that one. So Kerberus is known to eat raw flesh and eyes which flashed fire. So that kind of ties into the classic Grimm explanation. And he often would have a 3-tongued mouth and acute hearing. So what's confusing, though, about that description is that I couldn't find a specific what they meant by a 3-tongued mouth, because do they mean that each head had 3 tongues? So if he had 3 heads, it would be 9 tongues total. I'm assuming that's what they mean. I would just love more details on that. I love hearing about mythical anatomy. I would love to hear more about how the anatomy works and what the 3 tongues are for. But if anything, it's hot and I support it. So those are thought to be the major influences of this whole black dog lore. But specifically in England and the UK, There are so many fucking variations on the black dog story, which is why I chose this topic, because this is a fun time, you guys. This is going to be such a fun fucking time. And it's an excuse for me to whip out my British accent. So prepare, everyone in the UK. You guys are either going to dislike me or you're going to think I'm a super funny guy. Because I'm not making promises that my pronunciation's correct. But just as a fun fact, a fun listicle, some fun variations of the nicknames for the black dog include Hairy Jack, Padfoot, Muddy Shoe, Swooning Shadow, Hateful Thing, Shug Monkey. So actually some of those I'm going to go into. Some of them didn't have a bunch of information. A lot of them really are pretty similar stories, but some of them have very colloquial differences, which is why this is very fun. So let's just hop right on in. So firstly, we have the black dog of Boulé, or Boulé, if you feel freaky. So this dog in the area is known as the Chan de Boulé. I think that this area had influence from France for a while, because I was noticing that they also gave like a French version, like the Chien de Boulé, basically. So it seems like the local language there seems to be like a bastardized French English. So I don't know. So this takes place in Jersey, England. So this is the place that New Jersey was named after, Jersey. And so the black dog of Boulé is considered to be a phantom dog and an omen of storms. It is described as a monstrous black hound with eyes the size of saucers and sometimes wears a chain that drags behind it. It is never described as causing harm, only fear, and it is believed that the legend of the black dog of Boulé was created by smugglers in the area. The thinking was that the area actually has a bay that would have like imports of, whatever goods. And so the smugglers of the area created the mythology so that they could scare locals to staying inside at night so that they can continue on with their illegal business without having to deal with witnesses, which I love. Let's handle more illegal business that way, okay? That's like harm-free. And fun fact, in Boulé or Boulé Bay, there is actually a local pub with the name Black Dog. So I think that's pretty cute. I would love to do a Black Dog tour of the UK. Hello, invite me, you guys. I want to do a tour. So our next black dog is the black dog of Aylesbury. Yes, Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire. So the story goes that there was a man in the village near Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire, and he every day would milk his cows in a distant field in both morning and evening, as you do. And one night, while he was on his way to milk his cows, he saw a sinister black dog, and it started appearing every night afterwards. However, if he ever brought a friend with him, he wouldn't see the dog. So he was starting to feel a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So finally, one day, he was alone. He sees this big black dog, and he decided to attack it using the yoke of his pails. The yoke is that like big wooden piece people would use to carry two pails over one shoulder or even over both your shoulders. So he used that wooden piece that connected his milk pails to try to attack the dog. And instead of being beaten, this dog actually vanished into thin air. And the man fell to the ground. And he remained speechless and paralyzed for the rest of his life. So there's holes in this story. One how could this man tell people the story if he was alone when this happened and then was immediately paralyzed and couldn't speak? So that kind of doesn't make sense. Also, so far, these two stories, the dogs aren't really evil. The first one was an omen of storms. And now this one, this guy was just seeing and he decided to attack it. So again, this just sounds like humans initiating violent relationships and then calling these things evil. And we're the ones initiating violence, okay? This might be a good time for us all to get therapy and look inwards, because are other things evil, or are we just attacking things and then pointing the finger at them? I don't know. It's Scorpio season. We should all get therapy. So our next black dog is the black dog of Lyme Regis. So it is said that there was a farmhouse outside the town of Lyme Regis in Dorset that was haunted by a black dog. The dog was not violent, but one night the owner came home in a drunken rage and tried to attack the dog with an iron fucking poker. Again, this is so pointed, you guys. Okay, I'm just like, I mean, I took these notes, so I already know what's going to happen. But again, I'm just so fucking annoyed, because how are these dogs evil if this was just an innocent black dog owned by a man, came home drunk and tried to attack the dog with an iron poker? Who's the evil one now? Okay, whatever. So the dog naturally fled from its owner, and it actually ran into the attic, and it leaped out through the ceiling and disappeared into thin air. Okay, so this is a magical dog. The owner, because he was a fucking dick, thrust the poker into space, because like at this point the dog had disappeared, but the owner still, I guess because he was slow, like thrust the poker into empty space in the exact spot where the dog had vanished. And in doing so, he discovered a hidden cache of gold and silver. You're welcome. So you're going to tell me that you came home drunk, you tried to fucking assault your dog disappears for its own safety, and then also shows you to a pile of gold and silver. Shame on you, sir. And then in history, the dog's going to go down as a malevolent creature, and humans are like these great reputation, nice people. Like, this just needs to stop, you guys. We need to like rethink how we have rebranded history. Like, humans are the mean ones. Animals have done nothing wrong. Oh my God. So basically, in this town of, what was this town called? Lyme Regis. Basically, because of this story, it is said that dogs, and that specific dog, continuously haunts the town at midnight. And there's a specific lane that leads to the house, and it's called Hay Lane or Dog Lane. So in this area, specifically on Dog Lane, dogs are allowed to stray and run free. And late at night, dogs are known to mysteriously disappear. There's an old bed and breakfast in the area that I think exists to this day, and it's called the Old Black Dog. And the legend is that the man who discovered the gold after he tried to kill his dog built the bed and breakfast. I don't believe that. Sorry about it. That's a cute story. That guy was a fucking dick, and I do not think that he built a bed and breakfast, but maybe he did. Maybe he did it for tourism, for more money. That checks out. I'm just over it. I'm over this trope of animals being evil and targeting humans. These stories are telling on themselves. These stories are admitting that humans are targeting animals, and then animals become ghosts and now they're evil. That doesn't make any fucking sense, you guys. Let's change this up. We need to stop this now. So our next story is the Black Dog of Newgate. So in Newgate, there is a prison that is said to have been haunted by a black dog for over 400 years. And it appears before executions. legends say that in the year 1596, a scholar was sent to prison for witchcraft, but was killed and eaten by starving prisoners before his trial. Soon after he was killed, the dog started appearing. The prisoners were so scared of this dog that they fled the jail. They actually killed the guards, escaped from jail, all to escape this like black ghost dog. And the story goes that this dog hunted each and every one of them down to kill them. So that seems like people were deducing that maybe this quote, witch of a scholar had the ability to turn his soul into a dog and hunt them down. I mean, isn't that so funny though? Like, I feel like just playing the devil's advocate here. I'm always interested by like witch trials and like killing witches, because if you actually believed that someone was a witch, then why would you kill them? Because, see, the clock just chimed, so I'm right. If you killed someone for being a witch, wouldn't they be able to like still use witchcraft upon you after they died? Like, what's the logic there? Wouldn't you want to like suck up to them and like convert them to your religion and then like have them be your friend? You know what I mean? Like, keep your enemies closer type of thing. Because if you kill a witch and you actually believe in witchcraft, then technically the witch might haunt you for the rest of eternity and like ruin your family. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, I feel like this logic, people don't think shit through. Anyway, next up we have the Black Dog of Northrop. Northrop. Right? That's probably how they say it. Northrop. In the village of Northrop, in West Lindsey, there's said to be a haunting in the churchyard by a barghest or a boggist. In this legend, they believed that black dogs were actually humans with the ability to shapeshift into dog form. Sounds like Sirius Black. They believed that in a nearby village, there was an old wizard who could transform into a dog and would attack his neighbor's cattle. So that actually reminds me of the story of the Ashe that I was mentioning in the last episode, of these witches that could transform into animals, and as they transformed, they would suck blood. And I find this very interesting because I've also heard stories in some parts of Central America of Nahuals, people who studied sorcery, who could also turn into animals. There are some stories, they're not always exclusively about it, but some stories of them sucking blood of other animals and sometimes humans. Those stories are like not fully consistent all the time, but I am noticing similarities here. I find that very interesting. So there's also the Black Dog of Preston. And this dog is said to be the guardian of the gates of Preston and appears when the town may be in danger. And it is said to be a headless bogart. And fun fact, you guys, bogarts are not what they are in Harry Potter. Bogarts are actually, in English mythology, they are considered to be spirits or genius loci of landscapes such as marshes, fields, or sometimes even mountains or hillsides. And its howl would signify that you were to die soon. So again, I don't really see how this dog is evil, because it seems like it's protecting a town. And if its howl means you're going to die soon, it's not going to kill you. It's actually just telling you that you're going to die soon, right? So basically it just feels like people are afraid of dying and they're blaming the dogs that they're going to die soon. But the dogs aren't killing you. They're just warning you you're going to die. People need to relax. So next up, we have the Black Dog of Tring. In the parish of Tring in Hertfordshire, there lived a man named Thomas Colley. And in 1751, Thomas was executed by hanging for drowning Ruth Osborne for being a witch. Fucking typical. Oh my God. That's so stupid. So this dude, Thomas, was hung or hanged, which always sounds weird, but apparently that's grammatically correct. That's great. I'm actually really happy to hear that this guy was killed for, I mean, I don't actually support the death penalty, but if you're going to use the death penalty, I mean, I don't think I've heard that many stories of people getting punished for for accusing someone of being a witch and murdering them. So I guess like hats off to you guys in Hertfordshire in 1751. So apparently the story goes that Thomas Colley's spirit still haunts the site of the gibbet. The gibbet is the hanging apparatus, and he haunts the site of the gibbet in the form of a black dog, and it is said that you can hear the clanking of his chains. I don't believe that he's a black dog, but whatever. There's a tale of a pair of men who encounter the dog, and they saw a burst of flame before it appeared in front of them. They said it was massive in size, with burning eyes and long, sharp teeth. And after it soon disappeared, like a shadow. I don't know. I mean, based on my opinions, I actually don't think that these dogs are evil. So I'm a little bit offended that this story says that Thomas Colley, the guy who killed people killed Ruth Osborne for being a witch, I just don't believe that he transformed into a dog. I refuse to believe his soul was powerful enough to become a dog, but that's just my opinion. Next up, we have the Black Shook. The Black Shook is a legend told in Norfolk, Suffolk, Lincolnshire, and northern parts of Essex. The Black Shook is a black dog, and it is often called, like I first said, the Black Shuck, but also Old Shuck or Shock. And it is thought that the word shuck actually comes from a older word from the area, from the, I guess, like Old English dialect. It's thought that shuck actually means shaggy. And the Black Shuck is regarded as malevolent. Duh, they always think that. And it is known to scare people and sometimes murder people. And it is thought that if you saw the Black Shuck, that you would either die shortly or someone close to you would die. Oh, Loki's licking my hand as I talk about this. There's a tale that in the year 1577, the Black Shuck attacked the church in the town of Bungay, and it killed 2 people. And then it appeared in another nearby village, the village of Blithburg, and it took 3 more lives. And it left claw marks inside of the church, which apparently are still visible to this day. And in the parish of that area, there is a lane known as Shook's Lane because so many people have claimed to see it there. And there are legends that if you happen to see the Black Shook, wherever you actually saw it, if you walk over there, you can see scorch marks on the ground and the smell of brimstone. Brimstone is actually just the British word for sulfur. I've always wondered that. I've always heard that in like weird spells and shit. Brimstone, just sulfur. So, oddly, there's actually other stories in the same area of a different black dog that's actually said to accompany people on their way home, and it protects them from danger or misfortune. And again, this sounds like the fucking church just hates any old story that doesn't pertain to the Bible and just wants to demonize shit, because this same fucking town that claims that these dogs are fucking evil has stories of dogs that are just making sure you get home safe because they're nice peppers. All peppers are nice peppers. And if a pepper isn't nice, it's because a human abused it. Just saying. So, next up, Next up, we have the Capelthwaite. The Capelthwaite is a story that appears in Westmoreland, I don't know, and the adjacent parts of Yorkshire. And they are legends of an entity that could take form of any four-legged creature, but most commonly it would appear as a large black dog. It was named after the barn that it was said to live in, known as the Capelthwaite barn, near Milnthorpe. And the story goes that this shape-shifting dog was known to be helpful, and he was known to round up sheep or protect people from danger, but he was also known to be spiteful and mischievous towards outsiders, which again, I mean, that's a dog's job. If there's an outsider, you're supposed to scare them away. So he would like play tricks on outsiders. And eventually he was banished by the local vicar or priest, which is fucking typical. Tell me what this dog has done wrong. This dog has done nothing wrong. This dog has done nothing wrong. And the local priest banished it. So again, I don't know what more proof you fucking need. So based on the description of this creature, it's actually more similar to a hobgoblin than a typical black dog archetype, which I relate to, based on the fact that it's a shapeshifter and has like mischievous qualities. So this is kind of like an outlier in a lot of the British tellings of the black dog. So next up we have the Church Grim. This one is a fucking doozy, you guys. This one fucked me up. Again, I mean, we'll break it down together, but fucking A. So the Church Grim is another black dog, obviously. It's known to guard local churches that specifically have churchyards. So it protects the church against thieves, vandals, witches, or warlocks. So how is the dog evil then if it's protecting churches? Just like using other people's logic. Okay, whatever. So this is where it gets so problematic. So for this reason, because Church Grims were black dogs and they were, quote, protecting the fucking church, people in parts of England, while they used to build churches, obviously I don't think they do this anymore, but but back in the day, when people were building churches, some people would bury black dogs alive under the cornerstone of the church as a foundational sacrifice so that it could protect the church. Okay, riddle me this. If fucking witches and warlocks are evil, how do you take... Okay, this is witchcraft. Do you see what I'm saying? If witches and warlocks are evil, then how do you talk your way out of this not being a spell? If you're making a sacrifice of a living life as a protection spell, that's fucking witchcraft. So how can you be practicing witchcraft and then telling other people that it's against the law and you're going to go to hell? You're obviously going to hell if you're, you know what I'm saying? I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. But with the logic that by practicing witchcraft you're going to hell, then this would definitely send you to hell. Also, you're killing an innocent dog. So yeah, I don't think you're going to make it into heaven if you're killing innocent dogs for your own benefit. It's fucking nuts. Oh my God. Yeah, so problematic. So anyway, it's said that the Grim will ring the church bells after it takes a life of someone up to mischief and mayhem. And then it says mischief managed. No, just kidding. At funerals, clergymen claimed that sometimes they would actually see the Grim. Oh, there's the bells again. It would see the Grim looking out from the church tower, and by the direction that it was facing, they could determine if the soul from the funeral was either going to heaven or hell. In actually a different legend, oh my God, Sorry, this like really just offends me. But there's a different legend where when they were building new churches and like creating a new churchyard, which were obviously like, ended up being like small cemeteries, they believed that the first man buried there would end up becoming a guardian against evil / the devil for the rest of the bodies buried in the church. So instead of having a human man being the first body buried there, they would also bury black dogs in the cemetery as a substitute so that men wouldn't have to do the job. And this just fucking pisses me off because to this day, black dogs are associated with evil and hell, and yet people were sacrificing them and using them for protection. And then how do they get thanked but historically demonized? Like, this is just so evil. Like, I'm on the dog team. I'm 100% on the dog team. I always have been, but like, this is just fucking crazy. Humans are so delusional. Oh my God. So next up we have Dando's dogs. First of all, love that. I love that whole name. I love the brand. That sounds like a sick bar or like a biker gang or some shit. Or like a restaurant. I don't know. Like, I'm going to have to trademark that. Dando's dogs. So in the area around either Saint-Germain or St. Germans, I don't know, whatever you want, it is said to be haunted by a pack of hunting dogs known as Dando's dogs. Sick. I just love their vibe. So Dando apparently was known as an unrepentant priest and an avid huntsman who was carried off to hell by the devil for his wickedness. I don't know. That's kind of cool. I don't really know what Dando did though. But if he was just like doing simple things like, practical magic and smoking weed, then I support Dando. But if Dando was doing evil shit, then I don't support Dando. So I don't, I can't really speak on Dando's character. But just because the church said he was wicked, that doesn't mean he necessarily was. Do you see what I'm saying? So Dando and his hounds are said to be heard in a wild chase across the countryside. So this is kind of like the hunt, this archetypal hunt motif. So these wild chases are especially heard on Sunday mornings. And I find that really interesting because it really just does sound like the church just like hates all culture that predates Christianity. So there's also a similar tale that's often conflated with Dando's dogs, but this is a different story, and it's known as the Devil's Dandy Dogs. I feel like that's such a cute name. The Devil's Dandy Dogs. So this is like a Cornish version of the wild hunt motif, and they are considered much more dangerous than Dando's dogs. Okay, so Dando's dogs are like semi-dangerous. The Devil's Dandy Dogs, super dangerous, okay? So the huntsman of the pack is said to be the devil himself, and the dogs are not just ghosts, but they're considered to be true hellhounds, and they are black with horns and fiery breath. There's an old tale of a herdsman journeying home across the moors and was about to be overtaken by the dandy dogs. Oh. But the herdsman knelt and he began praying, and the dogs went off in the other direction in pursuit of prey. Something about this story like feels really euphemistic because like I feel like dandy has been used as like homophobic slurs. So like I wonder if this like has roots in like men being afraid of being assaulted by other men. That's where my mind goes, but like that's me just like completely pathologizing this story. I don't really have grounds for that necessarily being true, but there's also no proof that that isn't true. So you decide. Next up, we have the Frey bug. I actually didn't get a bunch of information on the Frey bug, but I had to mention it because I thought it was such a cute name. So the Frey bug is a monstrous black dog from medieval folklore, especially Norfolk tradition. And in the Oxford English Dictionary, so fun fact, Frey bug is actually mentioned in the dictionary. That's why I had to bring it up. So here's a new word for you guys. Here's a new fun fact for you guys to bring up at parties. You can incorporate this into your daily vocab. So the Oxford English Dictionary defines Frey bug as an object of fear, a body of specter. So again, it's considered an omen of death, and little is known really about the Frey bugs. They're just kind of like the classic like black dog motif, kind of like everything you've already really heard about black dogs so far. But a fun fact that I found that in these areas of England, they actually call scarecrows Frey bogarts. Frey bogarts. So that's pretty cute. I know, I like that. Next up, we have Gabriel hounds. Gabriel hounds are black dogs, but they have human heads, and they are said to fly high through the air and are heard but rarely seen. That is pretty creepy. A dog, ooh, sorry, I just hit my glass against the table. A black dog with a human head, I feel like that's pretty creepy. They're sometimes also referred to as Gabriel ratchets. A ratchet refers to a hound that hunts by scent. Okay. Or they're sometimes referred to as gabble ratchets or sky yelpers. Again, you know what? I don't think I've said this, but I would love to give the British some creativity points. These are fantastic names that I've been hearing just all around. So good on you guys. So it is believed that these hounds, the Gabriel ratchets, the Gabriel hounds, are thought to be the spirits of unbaptized children. Churchaganda. Some people believe that Gabriel is condemned to follow his hounds at night for the sin of having hunted on Sunday. That ignorant bitch. So there you have it. Then we also have the Gert dog. The Gert dog translates to great dog, and it is a black, benevolent dog from Somerset. And I just want to say thank you, Somerset, for just openly admitting that your dog, the local black dog, is nice. So in this area, mothers would allow their children to play unsupervised in the hills because they believe that the Gert dog would protect them. That's so nice. The dog was also known to accompany lone travelers in the area as a guide and protector. That is so nice. There's also some other guardian dogs spoken about in England, and these stories became more popular specifically in the 1900s, most likely because this was a time when people were starting to use dogs to babysit their kids. And so I think culturally people started having more love for dogs and less fear for dogs of like them like attacking them or whatever. So there's a famous story that circulated around England, which kind of like plays into this whole Gert dog. And the story was that there was a man who was traveling alone at night through a forest that he had never been to. And after entering the forest, a black dog, a large black dog, kind of came out of nowhere and accompanied him through the woods and stayed right next to his side until the man left the forest. He never saw the dog again, and it kind of disappeared like a shadow. And I just, like that is just so nice. So, fun fact, I was just really impressed with Somerset because there was like no talk in Somerset of these dogs being evil. Like every other region, even if the dog was allegedly good, they'd like throw in tidbits that like some people thought they were evil. So I looked up Somerset out of curiosity because I was like, why is Somerset so special? I'll tell you why Somerset is so special. Cheddar Gorge, which is a gorge known as the Cheddar Gorge, is located in Somerset. First of all, shout out to Cheddar Gorgeous. If you don't watch Drag Race UK, you should start watching Drag Race UK. Season 4 is incredible, and Cheddar Gorgeous, I love you. I also love Black Peppa, but this is a Cheddar moment. So I also really want to go to the Cheddar Gorge. I've heard about Cheddar Gorge because like one of the only lessons that I recall from the 7th grade was a day where we watched a documentary about the Cheddar Gorge. And I just fucking love cheese, and I happen to love cheddar, and cheddar comes from Cheddar, England. And fun fact, in the Cheddar Gorge, they actually discovered a human body that had been like perfectly preserved for thousands of years, because it's basically kind of like a bog, not quite, but like the air in this cave allowed for this like human body to basically like become mummified. So they did all these like tests on it, and it's like I don't think it's the oldest, but it's like one of the older bodies that have been found on Earth that's like in fantastic shape. Anyway, in this documentary that we watched, I think the documentary was made in like the late 90s. It like follows this science teacher in Cheddar, and like DNA had like kind of just become like popularly used. Jeez, I'm struggling to speak. So because when this documentary was made in like the late 90s, like DNA kind of was like, accessible. So they decided to like in the science class, like give everyone a DNA test, because they thought that maybe someone in the science class, like may actually be related to the Cheddar Man, as they called him. And it turns out that in the fucking documentary, the science teacher was actually a distant relative of the Cheddar Man. And so like the end of this documentary ended existentially, where like this fucking science teacher is like in the Cheddar caves, and he's like staring into space and like contemplating that he was related to the Cheddar Man. And that has just stuck with me for my whole life, because I wish I was related to the Cheddar Man, because I'm a Cheddar Man of my own right. I'm a Cheddar Man, and I love cheddar. Also, another fun fact about Somerset is the Glastonbury Abbey, which is located in Somerset. The monks of the Glastonbury Abbey in the past claimed that it was actually the setting of the mystical land of Avalon. So all these stories of King Arthur and what have you, they claimed happen in Somerset, in the castle there and in the church there. And the monks claimed that King Arthur was actually buried underneath the Abbey of Glastonbury. But it's not actually proven. But isn't there like a huge music festival in Glastonbury? So like, I'm just saying that could be the Mist of Avalon. It's also where cheddar's from. I mean, this is all like checking boxes for me. You're telling me that cheddar comes from one of the magic capitals of the ancient British world. Like, that checks out. Magic and cheddar are synonymous to me. So then there's also the guitrash, or like literally it looks like ghee trash. That's what this word looks like. It's like GY trash, one word. So this is a black dog of northern England, and it's known to haunt the lonely roads, awaiting lone travelers. It was known to shapeshift into horses, mules, cranes, or dogs. And they were known to either lead people astray or lead them to their desired location without getting harmed. These stories are so frustrating. They're like, these dogs are evil. They're either evil or they're super nice. So they're obviously super nice. But of course, people feared them anyway because people are ignorant. And in parts of Lincolnshire and Yorkshire, they were sometimes known as shagfoal. And they were known to sometimes take the form of a mule or donkey with eyes that glowed like burning coals. So this seems to be a really common motif, this whole burning eye situation. But I guess the gitrash or the guidrash specifically was more of a shapeshifter and could kind of like go between mule, donkey, or dog. But fun fact, in the novel Lame Eyre, or as you might know it as Jane Eyre, the Gitrash, the Gitrash is actually referenced in one of the parts of the book as kind of like a phantom of the country roads. And I mean, no lie, I was assigned to read Lame Eyre in high school. I could not fucking do it. I'm just like, it basically for me was like a toxic rom-com and so fucking dry. But like, just as some food for thought, if you haven't read Jane Eyre, then like this won't mean anything to you. But if you were forced to read Lame Eyre, like just something to think about. There's a character in this book known as Bertha. I like to call her Big Bertha. But basically, like, the plot of this book is that Jane Eyre is like the driest, most boring person in the world. And she's like hired to go into the middle of nowhere to this like chateau of this massive manor where this one fucking guy lives. And that's all she's told. Like, this one guy lives there, literally. And she's hired to be his like companion unofficially. She like really is just supposed to work there, but he like kind of wants a companion, but like barely sees her or talks to her. So she's living this like really boring solitary life, but there's like a bunch of other people who work essentially at this castle. But it's like, let's say more of like a duke's dwelling, if you will. But anyway, fast forward to like halfway through the fucking book, you find out that this guy that she starts to have sexual attention with actually has a fucking wife that he's been hiding in the attic, who's quote like crazy, like she's basically, instead of being sent to like a institution, they just like locked her in the attic, and it's insinuated that she like is either schizophrenic or just like basically hysterical. And then later in the book, Bertha sets the house on fire and leads to the love interest, whatever this fucking guy's name is, like Mr. Darcy, but like he has a different name. And he ends up becoming blind. And then later, like he and Jane like get together, but like Bertha dies in the fire. But I bring all this up because like Bertha deserved to be the main character. I mean, I just feel like Bertha is way more interesting and compelling than Jane. I don't give a fuck about their romance. I want to know about Bertha. I want to know about Bertha's life. And I just feel like that's such a more accurate depiction of what it would be like to be a woman in those times, especially with a personality. Because I feel like the women that survived were the ones that had to force themselves to emotionally shut themselves down so they didn't get killed for either being a witch or being, quote, hysterical. But like Bertha sounds like one of me. Bertha sounds like someone I'd be friends with, and they just locked her in the attic because she was too eccentric. And you know what I mean? She probably like was hearing voices and shit because she was probably tuned into magic, and there was probably ghosts in that house because the British love to massacre people, at least the rich ones. Anyway, that's my hot take. So take what you will from that. Next up, we have Harry Jack. Harry Jack has the best name. Harry Jack is known to haunt the fields of the village lanes around Hemswell, as well as the Brigg and Spalding areas. A woman named Ethel Ruskin wrote a book called Folklore in the year 1938, and she claimed that she saw Harry Jack herself multiple times. And Ethel, bless her soul, helped form the impression that the Lincolnshire area, she helped kind of create an impression that black dogs were of gentle nature and they were in fact spiritual protectors. Thank you, Ethel. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being a kind woman. Not surprised. You're the best. You're an all-star. Ethel Ruskin, you're an all-star. Next up, we have the Modido. Again, great name. The Modido, or Modido, means black dog in Manx, which is the language spoken on the Isle of Man. It is said to haunt the grounds of the Peel Castle on the west coast of the Isle of Man that was built by the Vikings, completed in the year 1860. Allegedly, morido is a misspelling of the Manx phrase moutedog. Moutedog. Yeah, it just means black dog. So it is described, classic, as a large black spaniel with curled, shaggy hair. And it is known to be seen in every room of the Peel Castle, but particularly seen in the guard chamber. Especially once the candles and fire are lit in the guard chamber, it is known to come in and curl up by the fire. It does this so often, in fact, that the soldiers who would be stationed there became so used to its presence that they basically just weren't even afraid of it anymore. That's so cute. So in this castle, there was actually a passage that led from the castle to the church grounds, and it led specifically to the apartment of the captain of the guard. And the Moutedug was almost always seen coming from the passage at the end of the day, and it would return to it as the morning dawned. Oh, so it sounds like this dog used to be the companion of one of the head guards, and he was just used to going to work with his owner and then going back home. This is such a nice pepper. Literally none of these peppers have been mean. The only time they're, quote, mean is because the humans instigate it. But anyway, there's a story of a drunken guard, typical, that did not follow protocol while he was locking up. And apparently he said that he heard odd noises in the passageway while he was like walking back from the gates. And the story goes that this drunken guard died 3 days afterwards. And apparently, because of that guy dying and because so many people had seen the dog ghost in the passageway, they decided to seal the passageway and they constructed a new one. Literally, what the fuck? The dog was actually doing it. See, that's the other thing. The dog was doing its job. The dog scared the drunken guard because he wasn't following protocol. So, like, what did he do wrong here, people? What did he do wrong? Nothing. Anyway, next up we have Padfoot. So Padfoot, as you most likely know, but I'm not going to assume. I know people older than me that didn't get into HP. Padfoot is also referenced in the Harry Potter universe, specifically Sirius Black. But it is known in the Wakefield area, Leeds and Pudsey, and some other areas of Bradford. And it is the classic like black dog archetype that we all know and love. And specifically in this area, it is known to be a death omen. However, Padfoot specifically is known to have the ability to become invisible if it chooses. It is known to follow people with light padding paws, and it appears either in front of them or besides them. So it will like be invisible, but you can like hear its paws padding on the ground, which is why it's called Padfoot. It is known to roar loudly with an odd and rare voice, and it also is known to drag a chain, which adds some more musicality to their padding of the feet. It is also said that it is best to leave Padfoot alone, because if one was to speak to it or attack it, Padfoot would gain power over them. Ooh. There is a tale of a man who tried to kick Padfoot, literally shame on you, and he found himself being dragged by him through the hedge and the ditch, and then was dropped off under his own bedroom window. Literally? Is that really that bad of a punishment? Like, you tried to kick a dog and then the dog just like takes you home? Like, you drunk bitch. Like, again, how is that evil? Like, you're welcome. Anyway. There's also another interesting story of a man who encountered a white version of Padfoot, and he also attempted to strike this Padfoot with a stick, but it actually passed through its body completely. He ran home in fear and soon afterwards fell sick and died. I don't really feel bad for this guy. Like, why are you just trying to hit dogs? Like, just relax. Jeez. This might be the best name yet, you guys. The next one is called Shrieker and Trash. That's Shrieker and Trash. Yes, I said that. So Shrieker/Shrieker, it comes from Lancashire and Yorkshire, and it is the classic death omen black dog. So Shrieker is actually derived from the local dialect from the word screech or frightful utterance. And it is invisible and it wanders the woods at night, uttering loud, piercing shrieks. It sometimes takes the form of a big black dog with enormous paws that are known to make splashing or squishing noises like old shoes in soft mud. And that is why the Shrieker is also known as trash, because that is another word for trudge or slog because of the noise it makes when it walks. Literally, I love that. That is so cute. It's like an invisible mud walker. Okay. There's only a few left, I promise. I just have to get them all in here because they're so good. Okay, so next up, we have the Yith-hound and Wisht-hound. So the Yith-hound, meaning yell hound, is a black dog from Devon folklore. And the Yith-hound is actually a headless dog, and it is said to be the spirit of an unbaptized child that rambles through the woods at night making wailing noises. Oh my God, typical. What is with all these unbaptized children stories? If you're an unbaptized child, write in. Do you plan on being a headless dog to haunt the world forever? I'd love to know. Fun fact, Yith-hounds are mentioned in Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know personally, but I found resources online that said that. So, yeah, someone write in. Tell me all about that. And Wisht-hounds are ghost dogs that are said to be the hounds of the devil. And again, I mean, this just sounding like the church is trying to get everyone to get baptized. So, take what you will from that. Next up, this one excites me, and especially people in Britain, I invite you to help me on this quest. This one is called the Muckle Black Tyke. Now, before I describe this one, the grandfather clock just rang, so that's how I know that the spirits are with me. This is a completely unrelated tangent, but please, people in the UK, help me. In the year 2009, I was on TV watching random TV shows, and I found a show which I remember to be called The Northern Isles of the UK. It was a BBC sponsored TV show. There was like 3 or 4 episodes, and I've never been able to find it since. It was the best show I've ever seen. I reference it still to this day. I saw it 12 years ago. I feel like I remember it like it was yesterday. It's like the best show ever. I've Googled it. I've not been able to find it. It was not David Attenborough. It was some other British dude that I've never heard of. And he like tours around all the northern isles of the UK. And the first island they go to is Muckle Flagga. And please, people in the UK, please help me. Anyway, so this black dog is called the Muckle Black Tyke. And this is the black supernatural dog of Scotland. It is known to preside at the Witches' Sabbath, and it is thought that the Muckle Black Tyke is said to be the devil himself. So, fun fact, the Witches' Sabbath is an alleged gathering of those believed to have been practicing witchcraft, and the gathering was for them to like convene with Satan and I guess do spells and possibly have an orgy. It's pretty clear that this whole concept of the quote witches Sabbath was actually labeled and created by people who were terrified of the concept of witches and magic. So the only times that the term witches Sabbath has been written in history is usually during times of witch phobia and witch trials. There's no other times that witch Sabbaths have been recorded, mostly just because even even if you were to practice witchcraft, you'd be surprised. Like, not that many people are actually really trying to like use dark magic, but whatever suits your fancy. But fun fact, in German, witches' Sabbaths were referred to as Hexensabbat. So the next time you meet someone German, you can impress them with that term, Hexensabbat. I'm sure that they know all about it. So, like I said, it seems to be that this like whole idea is like more propaganda to scare people away from like witchcraft. But I highly recommend that everyone look up paintings of witch Sabbaths. There's actually quite a few paintings labeled witch Sabbath. And there's like quite a few they were painted between the years 1500 and 1880. And they all depict basically like large groups of women gathering around like a goat man, aka like Satan. It's worth Googling. But fun fact, in Scotland, there is a tale that near the village of Merthley, that there is a standing stone, and that if anyone is brave enough to move the stone, that they will find a chest buried by a black dog. But no one has had the courage to move the stone, and so nobody knows what's inside the chest. Probably treasure, just saying. So those are all the ones from the UK. That was like a lot. There's ones that I didn't mention just because there wasn't very much information, but like, can you imagine? I mean, that's like so fucking many. So I just want to bring up 2 other ones that are from Latin America, mostly because I find them really interesting because there's so many overlaps, and I'm just going to like briefly touch on them. The first one is known as Huechivo, and the Huechivo is a legendary Maya beast, specifically in the Yucatan Peninsula, and it is described as a half-man, half-beast creature with burning red eyes. And it is said to be an evil sorcerer who can transform himself into a supernatural animal, sometimes a goat, sometimes a deer, or sometimes a dog. And it would do this specifically to prey upon livestock. It eventually became associated with chupacabras, who, like, that literally means, quote, goat suckers. And these are vampiric entities known to suck the blood of livestock. However, these are often described looking a lot like how people describe aliens. So that's a whole other tangent that we'll talk about in another episode. Like chupacabras, but specifically like aliens and like different types of aliens that people have seen around the world. But I thought that was really interesting. It reminded me of some of the stories from Britain of like stories of like sorcerers that would turn into dogs at night to suck the blood, and even the ache. So that was really interesting. Then we have the cadejo, and the cadejo is a supernatural dog that is actually a spirit from Central American folklore, and the cadejo is known to have red eyes when it attacks, and it's known to roam empty roads at night. There is a black cadejo, which is known to be evil, and a white cadejo, which is said to be good. And they sometimes appear as cows, but most often as shaggy dogs with goat hooves, and sometimes deer hooves, and sometimes they are described to have bull-like characteristics. And it is said that anyone who tries to kill the black cadejo inevitably dies. They also believe that if someone succeeds in killing the black cadejo, the body will smell horrible for days, like horrible, like much like rotting goat flesh, but even worse. And then eventually they vanish completely. There are some stories that the cadejo protects drunk dudes. Basically, these stories are that the cadejo protects these borrachos, these drunk men, from being robbed at night. And so like really drunk men will just be like tailed by these like ghost dogs to make sure that nobody like steals shit from them, which is like honestly adorable. But it is said that if you turn away from a cadejo, or if you speak to it, you will fall into insanity. And it is known to lurk in graveyards, dark alleys, and it's known to smell of concentrated urine and burning sulfur. The sulfur element, that there were some similarities in the stories in Britain. And its gaze is known to freeze anyone that it makes eye contact with. And lastly, a very honorable mention and a very important dog is the Xolo, which is related to the underworld in Maya and Mesoamerican culture. And what is so interesting is that in Mayan culture and other Mesoamerican folklores, these dogs, these are the hairless dogs that are from Mexico. They still exist. They're beautiful. They're worth a Google. A lot of them actually are black. So they don't even have hair, but their skin is dark. Some of them have lighter skin, but very commonly they have darker skin, and they are associated with the underworld. They consider these dogs to be protectors that escort souls across a body of water into the afterlife. They have found a lot of paintings of them in Maya pottery, and they also found in a lot of burial sites that people would often be buried with dogs, thinking that these dogs would actually protect them when they went over to the underworld. There's also some evidence that people were feasting on them, possibly as a way to fend off evil spirits, maybe during funeral rites. So sometimes, like while they were basically mourning somebody's death, that they would eat these dogs. And they were actually considered a rare delicacy. And a callback to the hero twins. We talked about the two hero twins, Shibalenke and Hunapu. And this I mentioned in the cat deities episode part 2. But long story short, these hero twins, they go into the underworld. They are challenged by the gods of the underworld to a game of ball to see who can win. And of course, as the story goes, the twins end up outsmarting the gods, and the way they do so is by performing a magic trick. And so one of the magic tricks they do for the gods that really impressed them was they butchered one of their dogs alive, and then they brought it back to life. And the dog that they had done that to was one of the Xolos, one of the hairless dogs. And fun fact, the Xolo is named after the Nahuatl god named Xolotl. And pardon my pronunciation, but the believed translation of that word is dog. Anyway, so because the hero twins butchered this dog and brought it back to life, and by doing so, they conquered the gods of the underworld and allowed the humans to live freely on Earth without having to make sacrifices to the gods. Because of all of this, people linked dogs with the renewal of human life, and dogs became associated with death, and specifically the job of leading people to the underworld. And they are considered representations of fires, protections of hearth, and two very crucial components of survival in Maya life. And I really love this sentiment. I also love that this story is literally from the other side of the planet of the UK. And they have these archetypal stories of black dogs being protectors and guide and guidance into the afterlife. And I love dogs. Also, I want to shout out Kate Bush right now because her album Hounds of Love has always been an incredibly powerful album for me. I guess now everyone else is on the bandwagon because Stranger Things played Running Up That Hill, but just for the record, they edited the fuck out of the song, so you can't really enjoy it because they just butchered the whole intro. But anyway, Hounds of Love is an amazing album, and I actually am thinking about the title so much differently now because the hounds of hell are the hounds of love. They're synonymous. It's the same thing. Kate Bush is a witch. She has always been a witch and she's ahead of her time. So that concludes all of my findings on the black dog. I just want to remind everyone, basically, let's just be nice to animals. I just feel like we need to be nice to animals. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like if you're listening still to this episode, you're probably familiar with the idea that, like, dreams are a reflection of your subconscious. So like all the characters in your dreams are like a reflection of you. But I also like to like use that in my waking life, like that all people and like everything that I see is actually a reflection of like parts of myself. And so the more I believe that things are inherently good, then like the more good that happens to me. And I feel like if you're just good to animals, like better things happen to you because animals are an extension of you and you are an extension of animals. And just by like being kind and sharing love and being good to things, and specifically animals and plants and nature, then you are also being good to yourself. And just saying, you guys, I feel like this is just a little reminder that the evil and scary things from this episode have actually been the human behavior, and that the black dogs aren't scary at all. So if you see a black dog, you're probably, everything's probably going to be okay. It's probably just making sure that you're getting home safe. Just saying. If you have seen a ghost black dog, please email me, esotericaandnonsense@gmail.com. If there's any story, spooky story, creepy story, alien story, story about cults, literally anything that you think I'd be interested in, or even if you just want to say hi, please send me an email, esotericaandnonsense@gmail.com. Please share my podcast with your friends. I'm brand new. That's it. Please have a beautiful spooky season. Pepper out.